Peace be with you. I'm Pastor Stephen Gjerde at Zion Lutheran Church, and this is Picture Time, a time during the week in which we look at beautiful artwork that helps us think more about the Sunday school lesson this past Sunday. So the Sunday school children have been learning about Moses in Egypt, Moses, the little baby who is saved from being killed by being put in a little ark and set afloat on the river in Egypt. He's brought into the family of Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. He's raised there, but now he has run away into the wilderness because he knows that he belongs to God's people and he's not an Egyptian. He knows that he could get in trouble if he stays in Egypt because of some of the things that he's done and because he's a Hebrew, one of God's people. And so he goes out into the wilderness. He's gotten married out there. He's tending sheep out there. What happens to Moses in the wilderness? He comes across a burning bush. And we think, well, that's not such a strange thing, really. I mean, bushes can burn, right? But the thing about this burning bush is it burned, but it did not burn up, because the burning bush actually is what do we want to say? An outbreak of God's appearance. That is, the burning bush is God coming to Moses. The burning bush is God in the bush in his beautiful glory to speak to Moses and call Moses to be the man who would save his people from Egypt, save God's people from Egypt. So I've got a picture that I'm going to show you right here of a burning bush. And as you look at that burning bush, notice how beautifully the artist, a woman by the name of Luba Briginets in Missouri, look how beautifully she draws our attention to that burning bush by having it contrast with that dark, deep blue sky and the bright yellow, and she just draws us right in there. Notice also that you don't see Moses, you just see the burning bush. It's almost as though you are Moses, that you are the one right there, and God is calling you to be his man or his woman to go do some job he has for you. A couple things I want you to notice about this picture in particular. Notice the bush has no leaves on it, and the bush looks thorny. You can really see that in the shadow of the bush. That reminds us of the thorn of crowns that Jesus is going to wear when he comes and is crucified for us on the cross. The burning bush points ahead to Jesus, that God's presence is in Jesus as he suffers and dies for us with that thorny crown, as he suffers and dies for us on the wood of the cross. The other thing I would invite you to notice are these shoes right down here. They look like really modern shoes, don't they? They look like sneakers. And that's kind of a clever thing the artist did to help us think through what it would be like in our day and age to have a burning bush suddenly show up in our experience. But I want you to think for a moment about shoes and about taking off shoes. When is it that you take off shoes? You take off shoes when you're at home, right? Or you take off shoes when you're visiting somebody and they say, oh, don't leave your shoes on. Go ahead and take them off. They're saying you're at home now. You're in our home. Our home is your home for the time that you are with us. Well, God, when he comes to Moses in this burning bush, tells Moses to take off his shoes because Moses is now standing on holy ground. That is, Moses is standing on ground where God has come to rest, to speak to him. Wherever God goes, he makes that place holy. And so he says to Moses, take off your shoes. You're on holy ground. Well, that's kind of like God saying, you're at home now. You're at home with me. He wants our feet, he wants Moses's feet, on that ground that is holy, in touch between his skin and the ground, in touch with each other. He wants Moses close to the holy ground, close to his holiness. He wants Moses to be at home in his presence and in his holiness. So that's an amazing thing to think about, that God wants us to be at home with him, even though he comes to us in strange ways, in a burning bush for Moses, in a crucified man for us in Jesus. Nevertheless, he wants us to be at home with him. And so he says to Moses, take off your shoes. You're at home with me now, and you are also at home with God. You don't have to take off your shoes to show that. The way that we are at home with God is by trusting in him, by trusting that when Jesus died on the cross, he died for all of us, and going and receiving the gifts of God, where he gives those gifts to us in his Bible, his holy word, in baptism, in Holy Communion, in the promises of his good news that salvation has come in Jesus Christ. So God is always with us, just as he is with Moses in the bush. He does not destroy the bush, neither does God's presence destroy us. Rather, his presence gathers us into his holiness and into his love. And that is picture time for this week. Today is Tuesday, January 18th, and that is a lesson on the burning bush. You can find more about that in Exodus chapter 3. God's peace be with you.